Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of The Unseen Shop, a podcast where the veil between the living and the departed is at its thinnest, and stories of the heart and soul unfold in the quiet corners of London. I am your host, Herodotus, here to guide you through the winding paths of the unseen and the unheard. In this episode, we journey alongside a spirit burdened by a past shrouded in guilt and misconception. His quest for truth and redemption mirrors the shopkeeper's as she awaits the conclusion of the Arbiter's audit. The revelations of tonight's tale are not just for the spirit who walks through the door of the unseen shop, but also for the keeper as she grapples with the complexities of her role and the decisions she's made. Sit back, let the veil of the ordinary world slip away, and immerse yourself in our story. Discover how the echoes of one soul's story resonate in the heart of another, and how the search for closure can reveal unexpected truths.
As the last light of day fades, casting a shadow over the cobblestone streets of London, I find myself lingering in the quietude of the unseen shop. The air is heavy with the scent of old books and the faint aroma of incense, a familiar comfort that usually soothes my mind. But tonight, my thoughts are turbulent, echoing with the words of the Arbiter. Their impending judgment on my past actions in the shop looms over me like a dark cloud. The gentle chime of the bell above the door disrupts my reverie. I look up to see a figure, his outline blurred at the edges like a faded photograph. He steps hesitantly, his eyes wide with a mix of wonder and apprehension. The clothes he wears are from an era long past, reminding me of the pictures I've seen of early 20th century London. "Good evening," I greet him, my voice a soft beacon in the dimly lit shop. "Welcome to the unseen shop. How may I assist you?" He takes a moment, his gaze flitting around the room, taking in the myriad oddities and relics that adorn the shelves.
I'm not sure if I'm in the right place."
He starts, his voice trailing off with uncertainty. "This is a place for those who seek answers or solace," I reply, encouraging him to continue. "Tell me your story." He introduces himself as Thomas, and slowly his tale begins to unfold. Thomas speaks of his life, one that was once filled with laughter and purpose. He was a builder, a creator of structures that were meant to stand the test of time. But his voice falters as he recounts one particular project, a building that collapsed, bringing tragedy in its wake. As Thomas describes the incident, his remorse is palpable. He believes himself responsible, haunted by the thought that his decisions led to the catastrophe. His spirit, he confesses, cannot find peace with this burden of guilt weighing upon him. Listening to Thomas, I sense the depth of his turmoil. His story, though unique in its details, carries a resonance that feels strangely familiar. Yet, I can't quite place why it feels so personal to me. I push the thought aside, focusing instead on the man before me. "Thomas," I say gently, "you've come to a place where lost stories find their listeners. Let us explore your past together, and perhaps we can unearth the peace you seek." He nods, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. Together we embark on a journey into his memories, delving into the echoes of a time long gone, but not forgotten. As the night deepens, the shop becomes a vessel for his story, each artifact around us a silent witness to the unraveling tale of Thomas's past. As the night deepens within the walls of the unseen shop, Thomas's story unravels further, each detail weaving into a tapestry of his life and the burden he carries. He speaks of his days as a builder, a man who took pride in crafting structures that were not only functional, but also beautiful, a testament to human ingenuity and craftsmanship.
It was to be my masterpiece.
Thomas says, his voice tinged with a sorrow that seems to seep into the very air of the shop.
A building that would stand tall, a symbol of progress and skill, but just days after its completion, it collapsed, taking lives with it. Lives that I can't help but feel responsible for.
As he recounts the events leading to the tragedy, I listen intently, piecing together the fragments of his past. The more he shares, the more I sense the weight of an unresolved history, a knot of guilt and regret that has kept him tethered to this realm. My mind, however, can't help but wander back to my own predicament, the scrutiny of the Arbiter, and the unresolved case from my past. Thomas's struggle with his perceived failings and the unintended consequences of his actions mirror the doubts and uncertainties I have been grappling with since the Arbiter's visit. Yet, I push these thoughts aside, focusing on the spirit in front of me. In an effort to aid Thomas, I suggest exploring the records of the time, delving into newspaper archives and construction documents. Perhaps, I think, we might find something that would shed new light on the incident, something that could offer Thomas a different perspective on the events that haunt him. We spend hours together, poring over old documents and clippings I've kept in the shop. The process is slow and meticulous, but Thomas remains patient, his eyes scanning each line of text with a mix of hope and apprehension. As the night turns to early morning, a breakthrough emerges. We uncover an old article that discusses the building's collapse, revealing a crucial detail that Thomas had never known. The fault lay not in his design or craftsmanship, but in the materials supplied by a vendor, materials that were substandard and not up to the specifications Thomas had requested. Reading this, Thomas's expression shifts from one of deep sorrow to a dawning realization. For years, he had carried the burden of the tragedy, believing it was his failure. But this new information paints a different picture, one where his role was not of a man who failed due to negligence, but one who was failed by circumstances beyond his control. As this revelation sinks in, Thomas looks up at me, his eyes reflecting a mixture of emotions: relief, sadness, and a hint of liberation.
I never knew.
He whispers.
All these years I thought it was my fault.
I nod, understanding the complexity of what he is feeling. Sometimes the truth lies hidden under layers of time and misconception. Finding it can change everything. The discovery we made about Thomas's building, the fault lying not in his work but in the materials provided, seems to have lifted a part of the heavy shroud that has enveloped his spirit for so long. Thomas sits across from me, a spectral figure illuminated by the first light of day, his form more defined now, as if clarity in his story has lent him substance.
I've spent years blaming myself, living in a shadow of guilt.
He reflects, his voice steadier than before.
This changes everything, but it doesn't bring them back, does it?
No, it doesn't, I reply softly. But understanding the truth can offer a path to forgiveness. Forgiveness of oneself and acceptance of the past. As we talk, I can't help but draw parallels between Thomas's situation and my own. The Arbiter's audit of the unseen shop, examining my every action and decision, has cast a similar shadow over me. The fear of being judged, of having my actions misinterpreted or deemed inappropriate, has been a constant weight. But Thomas's story, his journey to understanding and acceptance, begins to kindle a new perspective within me. In a moment of inspiration, I suggest a symbolic act for Thomas, a way to commemorate those lost due to the building's collapse, and to allow him to express his remorse. not as an admission of guilt, but as an acknowledgement of his grief and a step towards his own peace. We set up a small memorial in the corner of the shop. It's nothing grand, a few candles, a piece of the building's blueprint that we found among the documents, and a list of names of those who were lost, written in Thomas's handwriting. As he lights each candle, his hands tremble slightly, but his resolve is clear.
I never had the chance to say goodbye or to mourn.
Thomas says, his voice a mere echo.
I've been trapped in my own regret for so long.
With each name he reads aloud, there's a sense of release, an unburdening of the years of self-imposed solitude and guilt. The simple act, in the quiet of the early morning, feels like a powerful rite, transcending the boundaries of time and existence. As the last candle flickers to life, Thomas turns to me, a semblance of peace in his eyes that wasn't there before.
Thank you,
He says,
for helping me see the truth, for giving me a chance to make amends in my own way.
It's then, in the dim light of the shop, amid the relics and echoes of countless stories, that I feel a shift within myself. Thomas's liberation from his past, his journey towards peace, mirrors what I must confront with the Arbiter. His situation has indirectly shone a light on my own, underscoring the importance of understanding and context in judging one's actions. As Thomas fades away, finally ready to move on, I'm left with a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. I realize that whatever the outcome of the Arbiter's audit, I must stand by the decisions I've made in the shop. Like Thomas, I must accept the past, learn from it, and move forward, confident in the knowledge that my intentions have always been to aid those in need, whether they be spirits or the living. The shop, now silent once more, feels like a sanctuary of resolution and introspection. As I prepare for the day ahead, the lessons of Thomas's visit linger in my mind, a guiding light as I ready myself to face the Arbiter's judgment, whatever it may be. The shop, in the wake of Thomas's departure, feels transformed. His visit, while centered on his own quest for peace, has inadvertently offered me a profound insight into my own circumstances. The soft morning light that filters through the windows seems to cast a gentler glow on the artifacts around me, each carrying its own silent history. As I move around the shop, tidying up the remnants of our nocturnal undertaking, my thoughts keep returning to the impending conclusion of the Arbiter's audit. Thomas's story, with its revelations and resolutions, serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities inherent in the decisions we make. It dawns on me that the choices I've made in the shop, though scrutinized, were always with the intention of aiding those who sought my help. I realize that the shop, in its unique position straddling the living and the spiritual realms, necessitates a delicate balance. My role, as its keeper, has always been to navigate this balance, to offer solace and resolution to those who find their way here. The Arbiter's audit, while daunting, is an opportunity for me to reflect on the impact of my actions, both seen and unseen. Throughout the day, as customers, both living and spectral, come and go, I find myself more attuned to their stories, more conscious of the ripples each interaction creates in the fabric of their existences. My conversation with each visitor is imbued with a newfound understanding of the weight of my role. In the quiet moments between visitors, I ponder over the various cases I've handled over the years. Each one, I realize, was approached with empathy and care, a desire to bring peace to troubled souls. The uncertainty of the Arbiter's judgment still looms, but I find myself less daunted by it. Thomas's journey towards acceptance has, in a way, fortified my own resolve. As evening descends and the shop's ancient clock chimes the closing hour, I stand behind the counter, lost in thought. The shop is more than just a collection of oddities. It is a beacon for those lost in the shadows of the living world and the realm beyond. My role as its keeper is not just a job, but a calling, one that I've come to embrace with all its challenges and rewards. With a deep sense of resolve, I lock up for the night. The lessons of the day, the echoes of Thomas's story, resonate within me. I am ready to face the Arbiter and their judgment. Whatever their conclusion may be, I am at peace with the knowledge that my actions, past and present, were in the service of those in need. The London night is cool and clear as I step out of the shop, the door closing behind me with a familiar click. I take a moment to look back at the dimly lit windows, feeling a connection to the shop that goes beyond mere proprietorship. It's a part of me, and I, a part of its legacy. In the following days, I will face the Arbiter with a clear conscience and a firm belief in the choices I have made. For now, I walk home under the starlit sky, ready for whatever the future holds, carrying with me the echoes of the past and the lessons they've imparted.